Official Podcast. We are having fun. We are wanting you to have fun with us too. Oh my gosh, welcome to our show. Guys, it has been an amazing week. We are so excited to talk to you. We're so excited to dive in and talk about some really cool stuff today. But first, I have to introduce my co-host, Mr. Hilton George. How are you doing? Oh, that's Christi. Hey, Christi.
Finger gun. She's making noise. The app got her. She jumped in front. She did like Trump at the UN. She's like,
Hilton. How you doing?
Oh man, doing good. This is some great stuff that we have been wanting to talk about, and while we've been gone, the world has moved. There's been some amazing stuff happening in the nerd and BLERD sphere, and whenever we get a chance to talk about it, it's always a joy. So I'm glad to be back talking to y'all about it.
Yes. Christi Renee, right over in the cold and the New Hampshire-ness of it all. How are you doing, girl?
Listen, it's cold outside, but I'm hot in here because we got, I just get so excited when it's time to sit down.
Giving us way too much information before
I know.
Way too much. We did not need to know her sweaty parts.
This dry air up here. But yes, I am fabulous. I'm excited to be here and especially to talk about what we're talking about today.
Oh my gosh. So guys, we're not even going to waste any time. During our sabbatical, like Hilton mentioned, the Nerdverse kept going, and we were given the gem. I don't think any of us expected.
I had no idea.
None of us were anticipating. I was blown away. And what we're talking about is Wednesday on Netflix. Guys, I have never, let me tell you, never, ever, ever have been into the Addams Family. Like it's just never been my thing. I've had no complaints, but it's just never been my thing. This series was one of the best series I've seen all year. Like I go Stranger Things, Wednesday, and you guys know, like it's literally, and this was not on the radar. Not on the radar. It is such a fun freaking show. It is like the kids can watch it. You can watch it. It was, Jenna Ortega. This is what's so funny about Jenna. Jenna Ortega was on a show with a friend of mine. She's a Power Ranger, Serena Vincent. They had a Disney show. And so I knew of Jenna Ortega because I'd seen Serena's show. Like I literally was like, oh, you support your fellow actors. And so for me to go, is that the girl that was on the show with Serena? Oh my God. And she plays Wednesday Addams. You guys, this girl, she is brilliant to watch. The whole cast, but she is the one to watch. Her nuances, her take on Wednesday, her big eyes, her blank stare, like her relationship. Yes, her relationship with her mama, her daddy, her family. She was the terror that we needed. She was the heart that we didn't know she had. She was just amazing. It's on Netflix, and this is how they say attempts to master her emerging psychic ability. So this is how the story starts. We get Wednesday Addams. She finds out she's walking into school and her brother is getting picked on. And she's like, tell me who it is. And right before he could tell her, her head flips back and she has like a psychic episode. So she sees who hurt her brother and she's like, hold my beer. Right. And she goes and she bullies the bully like nobody's ever bullied. She puts piranhas in the swimming pool and he gets bit in the balls. And this is how this episode is going to get started. We are like, it goes right out the gate. It gives it to us right out the gate. So in response to her attempted murder of another kid at her school, she gets expelled. She gets expelled and she gets sent to Nevermore, which her parents, who are played brilliantly by Catherine Zeta-Jones and Luis Guzman, they send her to the school that they went to. And Wednesday is just bucking the system. She does not want to be the image of her mother. Right. She doesn't want to go to the school that her mother was so famously known to go to. She's upset. And then like we instantly get the dynamic between mother and daughter, and it's a strained dynamic. But we get some amazing performances. So I just want the overview of what you guys thought of Wednesday. We're gonna dive in deep, but I want you to just give me your overview thought of this wonderful, wonderful series. So Hilton George, you're up first.
Listen, there has been, obviously there was a TV show from the 60s, and then there's been multiple movies. And so we all think that we know the Addams Family, and we're like, what new story could they possibly tell? Yes, we know Wednesday. Yes, we know, we know everybody. So there's no new ground to cover here, and we get new ground. This is an emergent, prepubescent, teenage angst. Wednesday, and Wednesday is at odds with her mom. Wednesday is at odds with her roommate. Wednesday is at odds with the school. Wednesday is, even though she loves her brother enough to protect him, she's beating him up. I mean, she's totally on brand. But this is, how I thought when I walked in, I was like, we're not even getting the whole Addams Family. How can we get and there's a lot of episodes. It's not a short series. Like, how are we going to carry, Wednesday Addams and follow her for 14 episodes? Like, come on. Like, is this really going to happen? And just like you said, from the first 5 minutes, Jenny Ortega's acting. I watched some of the specials and the intro specials for it, and she did some amazing preparation for this work, for the stunts and for the walk, and she even learned somewhat how to play instruments in order to be more authentic. And what I thought was really interesting, is that we always knew that they were weird, mysterious and kooky and yada yada yada, but we never really mapped out what is Wednesday Addams' power? Like, what is her mom's power? What makes them so ghoulish, other than just them looking the way they look and acting the way they act? And it turns out, Addams families tend to have some sort of little psychic or special abilities, and we're mapping that out, and we're learning more about the family through her eyes. So it was a really, really good journey, amazingly well acted by Jenna Ortega. The supporting cast, the plot, the writing, everything was so on point. It is a binge-worthy series. If you haven't seen it and you've been waiting, don't wait. You're just going to hurt yourself. There's no reason to hurt yourself. It just got renewed
for season 2. You need to watch it.
Just do it. Bite the bullet. Fellas, just do it.
Just do it.
Get rid of the macho.
And what's so funny is that we, like you said, we never, I was like, why do we need a whole series about Wednesday? This is obviously the Addams Family, there are all these crazy characters, but I'm we got a hint of it in the movies that they've had prior to this, where you knew Wednesday was evil. You knew she was crazy. Christina Ricci kind of planted the seeds for all of this stuff. Yeah. And I recently met Christina Ricci at a Comic-Con, and she was just the loveliest person. But it's I had no idea that they were going to go here for this series. And Christy, what was your first impression? What was your take on Wednesday?
Well, I think you opened it up marvelously and accurately for me. They snatch you in by your soul in the very beginning sequence. And what I'll tell people is, if you understand Harry Potter and the houses, I mean, Nevermore is the dark side of Hogwarts.
Yeah.
You thought Hogwarts was just a little too safe.
Yeah, right. Okay, so it's like if Slytherin slithered off and had a whole school.
Yes.
That's Nevermore. So when Slytherin gets kicked out, of Hogwarts, they're going to go to Nevermore. But it is all the different houses. I love the sirens. The black girl is everything, because that girl can sing. She can sing her face off. First of all, I was like, did y'all miss her voice?
Yes.
Is anybody
Joy
hearing
Sunday.
her voice like I'm hearing her voice?
Joy Sunday, that's the actress.
She's incredible. Again, the storyline, the coloring, the acting, all of the supporting actors. These are young people, and they are the accuracy of the writing. It's also another compliment I gave to Miss Marvel. It's like there's nothing forced. They didn't get old people to write for young people. They do that a lot. The kids say these hip things. It was so oh, something is in here. Oh my God. One of the
Overlook getting to you.
I'm telling you. So yeah, it's
I was like, wait, are you acting out the show or what's happening?
I mean, I got my set is feeling the moment, I guess, and wanted to be seen. Who is that? Okay, yeah. Catwoman just fell on the floor. But anyway, yeah, this show got me. It hooked me. I binged it. I watched the first 4 episodes and I watched the rest of it the next day. And it was only because I had to get up early for something, I don't know. So I had to finally shut it off at 2 a.m. And then I just was like, okay, tomorrow. But my favorite scene, one of my many favorite scenes, is the dance. When she does the dance, it is brilliant. It is perfect. She is beautiful. And I was so glad that they did not turn that into some, overly choreographed with everybody jumping in to dance, because they do that a lot in
it
these
turned
movies.
into Thriller.
Right. And I love that. She was the focal point and she maintained who she was. And for a hot second, she did that original 1960s.
They cut out so much of it, but I caught it too.
It was a split second, but she did it. But the way her eyes would roll back when she'd flick her head up in the cameras, and it was brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant.
It was brilliant. Yeah, no, I agree. It was, one thing I will say is that they kept it true as far as just the heart of the show, like what you got in the 60s, what we were introduced in the very beginning. They kept all the elements. They kept that grounding of history of all the characters. But I love because when she gets to Nevermore, obviously she is not happy about being there, but you quickly find out that this is kind of where she needs to be. It's kind of, they refer to it as the School of Freaks. And, her parents are like, I think you're going to love it here. I think you're going to find, and she's like, how quick can I escape? And they've already planned that they know she's going to escape. They leave Thing there to keep her company and keep a watch on her.
Thing is everything. Honey.
He's everything and has no lines. It was like that.
How can a
so
hand
expressive?
It's a hand.
How did I fall in love with a hand?
How do we get attached to a scurrying hand, which is just creepy on its face? But we fell in love. I mean, we don't want to spoil anything, but there's a scene in there where I literally, I wasn't wearing pearls, but I clutched them. And I was just like, oh, nothing. I was sitting there like,
spoiled though. It's been out for long enough that they've already renewed it for
season. They killed Thing. Like, no,
they killed Thing.
I know, that was crazy.
What? Well, I didn't even know until that moment that I was that attached to the character until we almost lost him. I'm like, wait a minute, what is this series doing to me?
Yeah, but you know what? But I think that was kind of the cool part, where we see how Wednesday had no heart. She was not attached to anyone or anything. She was on a mission to solve this mystery. But the cool thing is that she did have a heart. Little did she know she was attaching to the things that were in this school that she didn't ever think she would. So when she first gets there, she meets Enid. Enid is my girl. I think me and Enid are one and the same person. I would be the Enid at Nevermore.
And I'm Wednesday.
And you would be Wednesday. I would be Enid and so happy and rainbows and butterflies and sunshine. But she takes her quickly through the school, and she kind of like Gossip Girl. She kind of breaks it down. They have this, they had the psychics, which you are, obviously Wednesday's a psychic. They have the sirens, which you referred to the girl, the young lady, the Bianca Barclay. She's the siren. Yes, they also have the werewolves, which Enid is a werewolf, but she's not a werewolf who's actually become a werewolf yet. She's kind of she hasn't had her first, she hasn't broke out and had her first.
Her mother is the worst.
Wolfing out. She hasn't wolfed out yet.
She hasn't wolfed out. Yeah. And her mom is terrible. And then you have the Gorgons, which you see the guy and he has got the snakes on his head and it's covered by this big hat. And you've got also the vampires. You've got the telekinesis, the kids that can do telekinesis. And you've got the animation, the Xavier Thorpe, who is someone who she realizes she's known Xavier for a long time since they were kids. And Xavier had saved her at one point, or she'd saved Xavier. And so he ends up saving her at one point, but he can animate the things that he sees in his dreams, and it's like his dreams are almost psychic, and then you also have the electricity, which is Uncle Fester comes, which is such a great couple episode when he shows up. And then you also have
Fred Armisen played him.
Yes, and then you also have the shapeshifter, which to me, Principal Larson Weems, she was one of the best characters. I thought, I was like, Gwendolyn Christie. I love her as an actress, but I've never seen her in something like this. You always see her in these other kind of characters.
Remember her from Game of Thrones?
Yes. Yes. So to see her in a whole nother light, and she's like this beautiful, like a statuesque woman who's the headmaster of the school, and you think she's not on Wednesday's side. And I mean, it was such a good episode. But just to give you some of the backstory, so Wednesday gets to the school, and at one point she is almost killed by, she doesn't know it yet, but she's almost killed by another student who has the ability to have telekinesis. And his mother had drawn a picture of Wednesday and basically told him, when this girl shows up, she is going to destroy the school and destroy everything about it. This is what she saw, right? And so he thinks, oh, Wednesday's bad, I've got to kill her. And so Wednesday ends up, following him and is trying to help him and trying to explain, like, no, I'm not trying to do that. And this monster comes out of nowhere in the woods and kills this kid. Like, kids are dying in this series. Kills this kid. Yeah. But he doesn't kill Wednesday, and he gives her a look, and she's like, the mystery is, I've got to figure out who this monster is and what is happening. And so then starts the adventure. And then starts the adventure. What are some of the things, like, you guys, you mentioned the dance scene, which I was cracking up because there were so many people who saw that dance scene. They were like, why is she dancing so weird? And I go, have you guys never seen that clip of Old School Wednesday? Like, Wednesday's always been known to have like these funny moves.
Quirky.
And awkward. she was like she's like when you, the definition of dance like no one's looking, she is like that definition of that. And so it was surprising that a lot of the Gen Xers had no idea of that.
They're crazy.
But what was like one of your favorite scenes that just really stood out to you? Yes.
Let me make a correction real quick. Yes. And Hilton, you were right, and I was wrong. I had the wrong SNL character outburst.
Oh,
when we were talking about Uncle Fester. You were right. It is Fred Armisen, and I outburst Christi Renee.
Oh, okay. I didn't even hear that. Yeah.
I was in the movie. Sorry, I was thinking.
Fred Armisen did that. You didn't almost recognize that was him.
People were mad. You know what people were saying? Uncle Fester's always been fat. Why wasn't he? And I'm like, what's wrong with y'all?
Yes.
Like, how his size is, how well is he played is the character. Exactly. That's what matters.
Right? He was brilliant as Uncle Fester. He's so perfect for that.
To Karen's point, aside from the dance, which I do want to circle back to at some point and talk about, because there's a lot behind that I think people really would be interested to hear. The scene where she is playing the cello while the statue burns is just, it was just her eyes, poetry. Let's just dial back for a second. What makes almost every scene in this movie pop, or in this series pop, usually, I'm gonna say 9 times out of 10, is going to center around Jenna Ortega's performance. Just the look and her mannerisms, and the way she carries herself. The thing that just really drew me in was that when she shows up at the school, one of the kids even commented that she was in black and white. like that she did. He was so, stoic and gothy that he thought you were in black and white, like the Take On Me video. Like, it's like, oh, look, you're in black and white. Like,
Take On their original show. It almost was
right. She just totally there's no color, there's no flushed cheeks, nothing. She just really just takes that in without looking artificial. But to carry that into that scene where you understand the intent and understand, why she was doing it and how she went about doing it, and how she just, you can see, it's the first time in the movie that you see her actually enjoying herself. Like, she's like, this is what I'm here to do. She's like, I'm going to sit here and play, and I'm going to watch this statue burn to the ground, and this is going to really, and she was just playing like, you know, Yo-Yo Ma on Hell's Fiddle. Just and
she was possessed. Like it was like
that's the word.
Possessed. Yes.
So to have that an actor who can pull off these pivotal scenes like she did makes all the other actors' performances believable, because the whole movie, everyone's reacting to her, right?
Yes.
Their performances, everyone's great performance, and there were some really great performances, are as great as they are because they had such a great performance to play off of. If they didn't have the right Wednesday actor and they didn't have the right performance, none of this other stuff would have carried the series. Yeah. And that scene right there is what really hooked me into the character beyond the dance scene. So that's my second favorite.
Yeah, I agree. That scene, like when it was like poetry in motion. I've never cared, you know, classical music is beautiful. It's obviously something you respect, but it's not, you know, obviously the genre of music I listen to, but it was so haunting, so beautiful. It was so amazing to just see her and like the possession she fell into. And it's like classic Tim Burton. You know, Tim Burton always knows how to pull you in with the fantasy, give you a taste of horror, and throw everything upside down and make you just go, oh my gosh. Like it gave me vibes of, you know, just some of his old classic films that he's done. He always figures out a way to make you fall in love with the things you never think you'd fall in love with, which obviously is this dark girl. And she's like the emo of emoists.
Oh yeah.
And you know, she's like, she bucks every system. She doesn't want to be normal. She has no, you know, she goes, this is it's my hour of writing, and she writes, and she's, you know, but what I loved, I don't know if I loved every scene. I don't know if there was any particular scene that just really stood out, but it was like, I just loved how she was a little detective. Like when she got she got like a hold of the bone, she could not let it go. Yeah. Even if it meant sacrificing some of her friendships, sacrificing some of the things she low key cared about, you know, it was just one of those things. But that scene in the pool in the beginning, like that was the best opening. Like, you know how they usually, when they write a TV show, they call it a cold open. And so it's like the cold open is like that first scene that just, it's a teaser, it kicks you in, and it just sends you on the journey, and it almost gives you now you know what the show is going to be about. But when she finds out her brother's being, you know, being bullied, and she goes and she walks up those stairs slowly, and they're swimming, and they're like, oh, look at her, there she is, and she goes, I'm the only one that gets to pick on my brother, and she drops piranhas in a pool. It's like, that was the best cold open I ever seen in my life, you know. So if I had to pick something outside of the dance and outside of the cello part or viola, I don't even know what instrument that was, but outside of that scene, that cold open was my favorite. Chrissy, what was yours?
You know, again, I loved every frame of this show. Everything. All the way, even to the end. I was sad at the end because I'm like, okay, let's go season 2. I need season 2. But so I can't, I mean, outside of what we've already talked about as far as scenes go, I will say, I have to touch on the relationship or the interaction between Wednesday and the sheriff. I thought there was something so brilliant, so meticulous about the writing between the two of them and the dynamic. It was almost like right off the bat, he knew this girl is different. I can't treat her like a regular child. I want her to shut up and get out of my face because I want to nail her father for actually something he didn't do. But he did not, he didn't, they interacted like two adults. Yeah. And even though he was kind of a butthole, not kind of, he was a real butthole, even towards his son, and that relationship is terrible, just, you know, but I just enjoyed the interaction because she held her ground, and she just word for word, tit for tat, you know, toe to toe with him, and didn't back down, and really with anybody, even when she would go to therapy. It was just, she had this, they could not F with her in a sense where they couldn't put her in a box and make her a kid, even though she's still a child by age. But she was so so much more advanced
she
than
was
your
so
typical
intellectual. Like,
right.
she was like, she outsmarted them. Like, they couldn't ignore her because she'd be
they
like,
underestimated her given her age. And I think it also speaks to, you know, recognizing young people for their talents and what they are paying attention to. Yes, they love their music. Yes, they love their thing or whatever it is, but they're smart. Kids know. Kids are paying, many of them are paying attention. And if you get them one-on-one, like she was one-on-one with from the headmistress to the psychiatrist to the sheriff, she was laser focused on what she was discovering and what she believed. Even if she was wrong, she was going to go down that path, and then until she was wrong, then she would, you know, find a new path. But I just thought those exchanges were brilliantly written, and very thoughtful about defining her as a young person with wit, with charm, with intellect. Even again, if she was on the wrong path, she was going to go the steps to find out who this was, who was responsible for killing the kids and people just in the town. So I thought it was brilliant.
Well, before we dive into who was hunting down the people in that town, let's talk about the dance. Now, it's come out that she choreographed that dance herself.
Yes.
So that's why I was like saying, like, you were right. It wasn't over choreographed, over produced. It didn't turn into Thriller, you know, even though at the end they were all kind of doing it. Like, they were like, hey, I like what she's doing. And they all joined in, but it just kept it fresh. And I was like, wow, like, this is so cool. So Hilton, I want to hear about some of the stuff you said that, you know, like some of the backstory on the dance.
Well, you touched on the main part. One, that it wasn't choreographed by some outside choreographer. So they didn't get like Paul Abdul to come in and like, we need to make this really quirky dance. She did it all on her own, and she didn't have any outside help. And she kind of was like, they expected her to do a dance. They didn't really know what she was going to do. And she did, you know, research, and, you know, she looked at some of her favorite bands, and there's a long list of influences. And there's even like a couple of compilation videos out there that show some of the moves that she was doing and some of the source material that she was using from like bands that she loved and performers that she loved. And she kind of incorporated them all into the dance. But the performance of the dance, the execs and the producers anticipated that this was going to be a TikTok sensation, because that's kind of a large chunk of TikTok performances are dances, these little dance routines, and it was going to catch on. And she was like, oh, whatever, you know, what do you know? Because these people are older, and like, what do you know about TikTok, old person, blah, blah, blah. So she does this choreography, which if you haven't seen it, then I'm not sure what rock you live under, you like Amish or something, but it's like, it looks more like a mating ritual than a dance. She really is just kind of performing this around him as if she's trying to kind of cast some type of a spell or something. You know, she's not dancing to demonstrate skill or that she actually enjoys the music. It's like she's actively trying to demonstrate how weird she is, and how when she gets into the music, this is me. This is what's going on in my head. Body. and the fact that she's not a dancer, right? She's not like, this is not something that she does. Now, she's had obviously some dance training, you know, for her, all Disney kids do. But this was something that, you know, the performance of it was just so stark and just such a standout that when it happened, like the world stopped on its axis for a second. And I think when we look back at, you know, big moments in any given year, the dance is going to be one of them. And now you see all of these videos, especially small children, doing the choreography in front of a screen, you know, dancing alongside her, some of them in costume and all this stuff. But just the fact that she just got so into it and was just so zombified and possessed, you know, in the same way she was when playing the cello, just made it iconic. And they knew it was going to be a sensation, and they knew it was going to be great marketing for the show. And internally at Netflix, they took that marketing and they put it out there. Like for the show, the dance was something that was going to go out there. There was going to be clips popping up on all these social media platforms for people to use and people to splice and do all this stuff. And it promoted the show in a new way. And I think it surprised her. in all the reporting she's done. And but it didn't surprise me once I saw it. I was like, well, there's the show. That's the show right there. Like that's it.
If we don't get nothing else, we just need that dance. We need that dancing.
Yes.
Like it was, oh my gosh, it was so electrifying. Like you said, it was very much like she was casting the spell. Like it was like a little girl, Jenna Ortega. Like one thing I loved, Christy, well, I'll let you talk about the dance because you didn't get to comment on that.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, one thing I loved is like a lot of people were, when the casting came out, people were up in arms because Luis Guzman was cast as Gomez.
That too. That was
it angered me to no end. And I'm like, his name is Gomez. Like the fact that they played into the fact that they are they're Latinos, that they let that be part of the story.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys. Like, who did you want to play this? Like, you want Superman to play this? Like, it's like, I'm almost like, I want to punch people because it's almost like that little tinge of like racism always kind of like, hello.
But even
like, come on.
But wait, even the original Gomez, he was of that descent. And so, I mean, Raul, what do you mean? But you know what they didn't like? It was really petty. And it's small-minded. They didn't like that, he may not be the standard attractive guy. I was just excited that, because they also, so everybody's on this weight kick and it's like, damn it, it's 2023. What are we doing? Are we still talking about that?
Right.
They wanted Gomez to be skinny. So Fester is not fat enough and Gomez was supposed to be skinny. So everybody had to be.
And here's the ironic part of it is in the actual comic series, the little comics that used to come out in the newspapers, the original art for this man looks just like him. He's weird and he's hunched and he's like creepy and he's a little funny shaped. Yep. So he's actually, Raul Guzman is actually the most of all of the people who played him, the most comic accurate. Yes.
But that's just
character out there. But people don't know that.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, you need to refresh your history so you can understand.
Yeah, that to me is it's just crazy that they even, again, these non-basis arguments that people are just saying anything to, and that's fine. If that's your preference, I guess I always have a problem with folks. Why you got to put that out in the universe? Nobody even asked you, and you didn't educate yourself, because you're right. If you were to look at the original drawings, I mean, he fits the bill. And Hollywood made, the Addams Family movie character that we all know, that was, and even from the TV show, golly, what was the actor's name from the TV show? I mean, it's like, he's not that attractive.
He was the big 50s era. Yeah. And he wasn't attractive until the first movie. And this dynamic character, right. Was this Raul Torres? I'll I'm sure someone's looking it up. But the key is that he was so handsome and dynamic and leading man, and he played a brilliant role, even though he wasn't. Raul Julia. I was close. He was a brilliant actor, and he carried that series so well, and just was so weird and dynamic. And I understand people's attachment to the actor and how he looked, but that does not make him true to the character anymore than Raul Guzman is. Exactly. And that's why I was like, people who thought, and really, and listen, what it really was, you want to keep it a buck, because he was brown skinned.
Exactly.
Look, that actor is as dark as me.
Exactly.
He is as dark as me.
Exactly.
That was really what it is.
We talk about them
I'm telling
brown,
racism be like, hello, I'm here.
Yep.
Hello. And it always shows up in these spaces. And I love the fact that Tim Burton, the casting agent, whoever, the powers that be, they always cast the best actors for the role. And like you said, it is as accurate as it can be, because it was always, the story was always that, Gomez Addams gets this woman, Morticia.
Yes.
Morticia is like the statuesque, like vampire lady. I don't know. She
Coke
just is.
bottle.
Yeah, like she is
Way
the
more
Coke
beautiful than
bottle.
he should be able to
Yes,
get,
and
you know.
she is in love with him, and they're love, and they can't keep their hands
The
off of each other.
passion.
And it's
The
yes, the
passion.
passion. And then, like Wednesday's like, you're making me throw up. Like, and it's not the enjoyable kind. Like,
Now we have to be. Let's
Yes.
hold on a second, because
Yes.
there is an actual truth to Tim Burton.
Yes.
Has not always been that person. Tim Burton was known.
You're right. You're right.
He was known for saying his films were not for darker skinned, complected people. And I don't know if it. Oh,
verbatim?
Absolutely. That's written and proven.
Damn.
It's out there. But this film in particular has put him on a new trajectory. I don't know if he saw the light, if somebody busted him upside his head. I don't know. I don't know.
What Kang variant are we getting here? Which version is this Tim Burton?
Right? Exactly. But when he did, he made a public statement about, and I don't know if he tried to, in his context, try to make the point, you know, because he does center a lot of things around death. I mean, when you think about his animated stuff, Corpse Bride and Nightmare Before Christmas and all of that, and then Beetlejuice, even, you know, there is the central theme is death. So, and they think of that as a pale, you know, complected type of, you know, realm, I guess. Right. I don't know. But he did publicly say at one point, and again, it got people up in arms, but this time around, and obviously, you know, now highlighting what the descent that we know, this culture was major, and they stuck to it. And let me, you know what, this is a great segue to talk about the origin of these characters and going back in history. And let me tell y'all about the shade in this show. The shade on the history and how America has jacked up the history. Y'all have revisioned, you know, the revisionism and the dangers of that, and the whole Pilgrim Town. And
she ran all over that.
She ate them down.
She said, y'all can't even have fudge. I'm gonna tell y'all what fudge was.
Listen, fudge wasn't even invented until, you know, you get so much knowledge. That's why I think these shows are so important. And the people who write stuff like this, like Wednesday, and again, a host of other things. If you don't do nothing else, you're gonna learn something today watching something like that, because they have so many. The fact checking is the facts are facting. In Wednesday, and they did not miss a beat. It was like I had to holler, and then I was like, "Ooh, let me go back 10 seconds." You had to hit the little 10-second rewind, because I was like, I missed the moment because I was laughing or hollering at. Ooh, she said that out loud. She said that out loud.
The thing to remember is that Tim Burton only directed a few episodes. Right. And there was a slew of Brown and non-Tim Burton writers and directors that came in on some of these episodes that took, I think, a special liberty to focus on these in the writing of each episode, because all of the stuff that Christi is talking about didn't occur as a major part of the plot. These are anecdotal, like she's like, you're like making note of the irony of having a black kid being the privileged Pilgrim Club kid, like, you know, it's like she notices it while nobody else is like she's like, so she is the lens of reality that we get to kind of look at this odd world, which isn't that odd, you know, and kind of do a lot of that fact checking and do a lot of that, you know, historical, you know, acknowledgement, and, you know, the reason why she burned the statue, you know, all of these things, you know, you see in this dark and you know, she's this dark and moody character, but still has this sense of general right and wrong, and it doesn't like letting people get away with BS. And, you know, just seeing her play that role, I think, is part of the endearing aspect of her and the show.
Yeah. And you know what I love? I love shows, like you said, I love shows that have that like that thin line, that thin theme of this is what, like, it's almost like Wednesday would say the things that we all were thinking. She would say those, like, it was like she had only an outside voice. She would say immediately what was obvious, like the obviously obvious ironies of this situation and the obvious ironies of that situation. And but yeah, I had no idea that Tim Burton was that man.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like you said, whoever was behind this, I'm going to say the writers are Charles Adams, Miles Miller, Alfred Gould, and there are a ton of producers who, you know, spearheaded this series, and they did such a good job. And I think it's just so timely. Like, literally, guys, I was at a Comic-Con this weekend, and little girls, women, everybody in between were dressed like
the
Wednesday.
Cosplay game
like
is already
the
up.
Cosplayers. Yeah, and I saw Enid. I saw, you know, the wolfed out Enid, and I saw the regular human Enid. So it was just, it was just on time. It was so great. And I love when you do a reboot. I love when you do a new show and you bring back the person who originally helped this show. Like, we would have never cared about Wednesday without Christina Ricci. Like, Christina Ricci, we had no idea. Like, up until then, it had always been centered around the parents, and it'd been centered around the quirky other characters, and they'd come in and do quirky stuff. But it was always kind of like, you know, Morticia and Gomez were kind of leading this family, and it was just kind of centered around the family. Yeah. But in those movies, we got the dark Wednesday. We got the hint of this psychotic child that everybody was like, you know, like, 'cause not everybody was an Eden. Not everybody is this happy-go-lucky, like, I want to talk about everything and I want to be everybody's friend. And I want everyone to like me. You know, not everybody is that kid. Right. There are a lot of other kids that go to school, and a lot of other people, and a lot of other personality types, and a lot of people who identify with the Wednesday. So it was like, to have Christina Ricci be in this movie, and not only be in the movie, but to end up being the antagonist, end up being the one that's kind of like, she's not hunting her down, but you quickly find out, spoiler, the character Hunter, who was almost was the guy that, you know, Wednesday kind of falls in love with. Yeah. She has her first kiss with him, but she finds out he's a Hyde. So it plays into the Jekyll and Hyde, where he's a normal person, and then he turns into this crazy monster who's out of control and will kill them. And she starts putting the clues together that every time that something happens, he was around, he was there, or something, like, for some reason.
He's the sheriff's son. So that's the other part
to bring it all back. Yeah. And what I loved is that, you know, again, like you brought up the sheriff's son, here it is, this school of freaks. They instantly blame it on the kids that are different. Yep. They instantly blame it on the freaks. They instantly blame it on them. When all along, the sheriff, the guy who's supposed to be the poster child of safety, that Hyde was living in his house. And he was keeping the secret that his mother was also a Hyde. But Christina Ricci is the one who's like
pulling the strings. She's the
pulling all the strings,
weaponizing him and directing him and all that. Right. Yes. That was a shock. I didn't know how. That was another aspect of this that made it such a great view, was that the story was intricate and it was a good mystery. Like, there was no giveaways. Like, we were like, okay, all right, who could it be? Like, it, you know, is it the butler? Like, I mean, you really were trying to figure out, like, even at some point you wonder, like, is Fester involved with this? Like, oh, he's just popping up. And so you're following the mystery and the story, which is very, very well written. But then you also get these great performances along the way. And it's a really great combo, because she didn't have to be a brilliant actor doing a brilliant portrayal in a mediocre movie. Like, everything stepped up to that top level. And that's why you can have 14 episodes of the show. And I don't know if it's 14, I'm just saying that. But you're like watching every one.
Eight episodes, but
but they were like an hour and some change long, right?
It was a good 8, like a long 8.
Yes, you were like really engaged. Like, okay, who could it be? Is it the headmistress? Is it the sheriff? Is it, you know, whatever?
Is it her friend that saved her? The other guy. Yeah, it was so good. Xavier, yeah. And it was just, and you got the young love, you got the young friendships. It's like kind of gave you a little bit of everything. It was such a good show.
You know, it's so much to it, because I'm also really, again, I say I can't wait for season 2. And part of that is because I think I am really, really intrigued by Bianca's backstory. When her mother comes for family weekend, and what the hell is this guy there? You know, again, seeing Black people in cults. And that's what it sounds like. You know, there's like a Jim Jones story going on here. And so I'm very curious. But again, you called it, Karen, when you said there's more Wednesdays there at Nevermore than, you know, that we were ready for. And we're learning that there's many of them. And she, you know, has obviously escaped from her life with her mother to come to Nevermore and just be among those that, you know, where she can be what she is, who she is, but almost to use it for better. And it was worse on the outside, because again, we get into that whole backstory of how humans, we can be the worst. Humanity can be the worst. We are the horror many times. And so on the outside world, what is supposed to be considered normal and good and safe and fair is actually where she felt the most endangered and with her gifts. And now at Nevermore, she can utilize her gifts for the better, which is almost like, again, it's just a great show. Y'all need to watch it. I
want to circle back very quickly, not to harp too long on this. That circle back. Nevermore Academy is a brilliant construct to carry this movie. Without Nevermore, there wouldn't be a movie, or without a series. I'm sorry. And it's a bold move to kind of create this, you know, darker than Hogwarts. Because it's not in any of the canon. It's not a part of any of the Addams Family canon. So to create this world that the mother has a history with, and the headmistress has history with the mother, and they kind of like see it as this great experience, and, you know, allow for Wednesday to do some of the seemingly horrible stuff she does. The mother is just like, oh, you just touched my heart with this attempted murder. Like, oh, you compliment us. So she's so on character and on brand with like all of these horrible things. And this school gives her the vehicle to do it. Because remember, in the movies, they were trying to integrate the Addams Family and all of their weirdness and superimpose it in the regular world. And so you're watching the regular world reacting to the Addams Family, and that's the dynamic of the movie. Here, all their weirdness is somewhat neutralized. You know, here's Wednesday Addams surrounded by sirens and vampires and you know, gorgons and werewolves, and she's kind of the normal one when it comes to that in that space. Even though even amongst all these monsters, she is the emo kid, which she still manages to stand out. So I think that's going to be a vehicle that is going to be a vehicle for the fandom. I think there's going to be so much for people to sink their teeth into in multiple series and seasons of this show. So I'm really looking forward to that, because they built a world that we can explore now. And this is the first time this property has done it.
And you know what, you hit like that. You just hit on the biggest thing. Like, it's almost like you have this whole cast of characters, and then Nevermore is a cast of character also, you know, and within Nevermore, you get all of these other subgenres of freaks. And it's just one of those things where you realize it's like a Comic-Con. The weirder you are, the cooler you are, you know? And it's just like this cool world of people like who don't belong, but belong. And I loved how the story, you know, really, even though it had, you know, someone was hunting them down and someone was trying to kill the kids and something, you know, was killing people in this town. And then you had Christina Ricci. She's, you know, pulling the strings, and she's a puppet master. But it also had a story about a young girl who was finding her way, who is becoming comfortable with her psychic abilities, who is also becoming comfortable with making friends and having friends, and realizing that she needed people. Like, she didn't, like, her mom kept telling her, Wednesday, you don't have to do all of this on your own. You kind of need people, you know. And there's this quirky girl that comes in and just crashes down every wall Wednesday wants to throw up, and it's her roommate. And at the end, they have this big battle, and it's like all of the kids go to help her. All of the kids show up to save her. And she finally hugs her best friend at the end when she realizes, and you're just like, oh, and you're literally like, to see this young girl that has kind of been in her box and has been weirdly in her box, but it was almost like her safe zone. It almost became her safe zone, and she had to step out of her box and realize that this was home, and she acknowledges that Nevermore was the right place for her to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then she shuts us all down real quickly because she goes back to don't get it twisted. I'm still Wednesday. I'm still me. I still cut your head off and bury it in the backyard.
Right.
She's
I love it.
I have to say this also. We touched on how, well, one, again, this also did another great thing music wise, because even what they were dancing to, it brings out, it also talks about history. But I also love the references to literature, and that Edgar Allan Poe was a huge influence in this whole setting. And y'all know me, I'm the darkest one.
I love me some Edgar. Ooh.
I mean, so I was like, oh, I love this. I love this. So you had some of the riddles, and then you had, just dealing with his poetry and writings and just the different references. And
it was a perfect backdrop for a school like this.
Yes.
Because that's who he was. His writings are so dark and scary and abysmal. Yeah. And they're like, okay, if you name a school after him, this is what it would look like, and this is who it would attract. So yes, absolutely agree on that.
And you realize, like, when they used to say Edgar Allan Poe had gone mad, and he, eventually went mad, and I was like, he just sounds like he was bipolar. He just sounds like he was eccentric. He probably didn't go mad. He just probably had mental health issues. Like, most of us.
And when you're overtly creative and you just think outside of that typical,
and you crush the norms.
Yes, you're automatic, especially in it from era to era or generation to generation. It opens up a little bit more. But back then, oh my gosh, I mean, he was an immediate, whack job. So compared to, I guess.
Yeah, I loved it. So, I mean, I'm just going to tell you guys, if you haven't watched this series, I don't know what you're doing with your life. I do not, it literally has been on the top 10 list for Netflix for the last 3 months or 2 months. I don't even know how long it's been out, but it is a must see.
Yes.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, I'm just so excited to see where this goes. I think Netflix honestly took a sigh of relief. They were like, okay, we've got one final season of Stranger Things. And then out of nowhere comes Wednesday and gives them all of these little young teenage kids, and they can ride this series for the next 5 years or 5 seasons if they're able to film it fast enough, and these kids don't grow up and become like giants. But it literally, because the Stranger Things kids are straight up adults now, and we're like, no, they got 25-year-olds who are playing 17-year-old high school students. You're like, come on now. But you can't help it when the kids are now all 6 feet, and it's like, okay, damn.
They're gonna be doing a lot of camera tricks, a lot of angle tricks going on, I'm sure.
Yeah, but you know what? I know that Netflix was like, okay, thank you, because they're losing their biggest property. After 2024, that's the last and final season, and they are going to get spinoffs for Stranger Things, and the Duffer Brothers have already said, we've got a whole spinoff. It has nothing to do with this, and it's just equally as great. We're probably going to all love it. But they were nervous. They were like,
of course,
shit. We lose Stranger Things. Let's go. What else? We got the Crown. Well, there's nothing that that gives you that Goonies, that gives you that horror, that gives you that young kids running around, sci-fi kind of feel. And now they've got Wednesday.
Yeah.
So and I'm happy. And now they have Wednesday and all these beautiful kids and all these beautiful actors. I mean, these kids were off the chain, man. Off the chain.
Every last one of them. Very good.
Everything was perfect. Yeah. And this is, again, like I said at the start of the show, I was never a fan. I was never into it. And it wasn't because... But me, it wasn't because it just never caught my interest. So for you to take someone like me, someone who is not interested at all, and I'm so invested. I'm so when does it come out? It's literally going to be on my calendar. Yeah. I jumped for joy when the news came out that they got greenlit for season 2.
Yes,
you'll have a lot to talk about then.
Yes. So any final thoughts? Any final thoughts on Wednesday?
Honey, Wednesday's where it's at. Wednesday is, again, it gives you some of everything. And I know people will think that, oh my God, this is a kids. It is for everybody. Mm-hmm. It is across the board. It is multifaceted. The dynamics are incredible. It's very thoughtful, and it is unique. It is funny. It has a boo factor to it. You get a lot. And again, the visual, it is visually delicious. It is
Stunning,
just so pretty. It's so, I love the color palettes and just the lighting and everything. So it's
the
wonderful.
wardrobe alone is worth watching it
I
for.
mean,
The wardrobe and the set design. Come on,
there will be Emmys. There will be Emmys in the lineup.
Absolutely.
Nominations for this for sure. And piggybacking off of everything, Christy, you said it right. You know, it's got so much, and for people like myself who was not a fan of the genre, if you are a horror fan, you know, if you are a fan of mysteries, if you know, like witty dialogue, you know, like a Soderbergh movie, you know, like Ocean's 11 type of dialogue where you can just quippy and funny and quick, you know, you will love this show. And again, it is out of the norm for most of the people who are watching it and enjoying it. And you will be hooked within episode 2. And this is one of those shows, as like, if you get to the end of episode 1, you're going to watch it all the way through, because it's just really, really good. It's so well done. And, you know, you don't want to be left out. They're going to be talking about this series for the rest of the year and everything about it, especially once it gets all its nominations and everything. And you're going to be the person at the office at the cooler looking crazy because you didn't want to, you know, hit play because, you know, you're just not into this stuff. Let all that go. If you have any apprehensions about Tim Burton and some of the things that he has said, and you're thinking that you don't want to support, you know, that, forget all that. This is an ensemble. It's a team effort. You know, he, you know, was the spearhead of it. He was part of it. But this goes against, you know, all the norms. It is inclusive. It's incisive. It's representative. It is diverse. And none of that stuff that is on the outside from the history and stuff that's being drudged up is playing out in this series. It is definitely worth a look. And there's a lot of really great performances and actors that I think we're going to be seeing more of, not just in this series, but in other shows.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I can't wait. And we're going to end it there because, man, the two of you wrapped it up beautifully. Guys, yes. Tune in next week for some more the BOP, the BLERD official podcast. We are just getting started. We've got so much things we have to catch up on. We're out of our hiatus. We're out of our holes. Christy is now in New Hampshire. We are going to
East Coast.
Finally. Everybody's on the East Coast except for me. So
we're waiting for you. Waiting for you. All that rain gonna drive you out, bring you on over.
Maybe. I know. You know what? We've been house hunting, so you never know where we might land.
Okay. Well, come on.
Oh my gosh. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you guys so much. You guys are the best audience, and we just want to have fun. So hey, tune in next week for the BOP, the BLERD official podcast. We love you. Bye.
Oh,
yes, I like it. Everybody close it down. Close it down.
Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode of the BOP, the BLERD official podcast.